Hey folks, welcome back to Game Geeks. I'm your host, Kurt Wiegel. Today's episode, we are talking about Star Wars Edge of Empire role-playing game. This is a great Star Wars game, probably the best one I've ever played. I know that's blasphemy to D6 fans and to D20 fans. Folks, this holds together better than any of those did. The premise behind Edge of Empire is it's set in the time between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope. There's that window in there where the Empire was growing and consolidating power. The point behind this is you play a fringer. You play a bounty hunter, a criminal, an outlaw tech, a smuggler, or a hired gun who lives out on that fringe area and occasionally has to do some criminal activity to stay alive and keep going. If you're thinking this sounds a lot like Firefly with aliens and occasional force powers, I can't argue with you. It's actually a pretty good analogy for this. If you're also thinking this sounds like it'd make one hell of a Farscape game, you're absolutely right. This is probably the closest I've been able to come up with that would do a Farscape incredibly well. And I've come across others that I think would too. This probably would do it the best. But this isn't about Farscape, which will forever be a part of my heart that is broken. This is about Star Wars Edge of Empire. Now, there are two other core books in this line so far. One of them is Age of Rebellion, which gives you more combative war stuff and to do in the period between episodes 4, 5, and 6. And there is Force and Destiny, because in neither of those settings do you have a lot of Force users. Force powers and Force users are really minimized as an intentional design choice in these books. Force and Destiny is all about the Force users. They're all pulled into one place. And you could use that in any era you want, from the Old Republic to the Legacy era. And it all fits together very nicely. Mechanically, this game has a couple of quirks, and the biggest one is it requires the use of specific kitschy dice. I will be upfront, I loathe games that require you to use kitschy dice that you have to buy from the company as an addition to the book itself. It seems like a cash grab to me. It seems like an easy attempt of buy more of our crap. That being said, I bought a set of these dice grudgingly, but I bought them because my good friend Jordan was running this game. And I thought, okay, I'm going to play along nice with others here and get a set for myself. I also discovered not long after that for Apple products, you can buy a dice rolling app, which is the official Fantasy Flight Games one. It only cost me about $5, which is less than the $13 to $15 it costs you for the main dice themselves. Works on my phone and my iPads, and it is a real physics dice rolling engine rather than just random generation based on the number of sides. So when you roll this, it's actually much closer to the probability curve of rolling the dice themselves. Now, the dice come in a variety of fashion-forward colors, and they also have symbols on them. And if you don't know what you're doing yet, the symbols will make absolutely no sense. Another friend of mine once said, so I rolled these, and I got 3 leaves, and a mouse penis, and a dinosaur turd. What does it mean? Once you learn the code, which should take you all of 5 minutes, which is all it took me, and I'm not that bright. Once you learn the code, it's really easy to do. You learn which symbols cancel which ones out. Some of the dice are good. Your green and yellow and light blue dice are good. The bad dice, the red, the purple, and the black, the symbols cancel each other out and mean different things. The symbols are a little quirky. You've got an explosion, so that's a success, and then you've got a failure, which looks like it's supposed to be like the symbol of the rebellion. Personally, I think it looks like a bearded cyclops. Then you've got like the lightsaber hand holding the lightsaber in the air as a triumph. You've got this circle with a triangle kind of inscribed upon it that is a despair. You've got successes, you've got failures, you've got advantages, and you have disadvantages. Those might not be the core name for them, but it works. Folks, honestly, it seems weird at first. After 10 minutes, this is the most intuitive dice system I've ever seen for a game. It makes sense. Everything holds together beautifully. We are playing a long-term campaign of this. There's no question about what dice to roll. Every once in a while, I'll forget to add the purple dice to my pool, but that's just me. So, character generation starts with your race. The races that are available to you are some that you would expect and a couple you might not. The races for this include the Bothans. It's not exclusive. Includes the Bothans, who many Bothans died to bring us this information. They're most known for dying. You've got humans, you've got Rhodians like Greedo, you've got Twi'leks like Bib Fortuna, you've got Trandoshans like Bosk, Wookiees, all sorts of stuff there. more of the fringe stranger race creatures. Others, such as the Ithorians, such as the Mon Calamari, those show up in other books. These are your grittier sort of races, although you could easily import an Ithorian or a Saren into your Edge of Empire game, and it would work just fine. The rules between the systems all pan out the same. So you start there, then you gain your base attributes, then you gain an occupation. Now the occupation itself, the profession, they're broken down into very broad sweeps. Now I'm actually going to tell you which ones these are, because they're broad enough I think they require a little explanation. To start with, you've got a bounty hunter. Now each of these professions breaks down into 3 specializations. I'm not going to go through all of them, but bounty hunter's the first one, so we're going to talk about it. With bounty hunter, you have assassin, gadgeteer, and survivalist. What these do is they give you a slight different iteration on skills, and you've got talent trees to pick from to get your special sort of abilities, widgets, feats, whatever you want to call it. So bounty hunter is the first, colonist, explorer, hired gun, which is what the other martial one in addition to bounty hunter, smuggler, technician, and hidden in the back, you've also got force user. Honestly, you don't need it. You're not missing anything with a force user here. The way this works is, the dice pool works, is you start with your attributes. The number of attribute points for the skill you're going to be using gives you a number of green dice. The number of skill points you have that overlap there, you replace a green with a yellow. Purples are your difficulty. You roll the whole thing and start interpreting the pool. It sounds more complicated than it is. It's actually really, really straightforward and cool. There's a couple weird things that arise mainly because you've got to learn a lot of new vocabulary for any game. I swear to God, playing D&D has given me 15 words for dexterity. So you got to learn what some of the skills mean that may not mean the same in others. For instance, both vigilance and cool are used in an initiative sense. Cool for if you have time to set up and you know the battle is coming. Vigilance for, oh shit, I'm being attacked. They both work. They're both equally usable there. Just depends on the situation and what the character's doing at a given time. There are also rules for space combat, as you can imagine, that hold up just as well as the personal combat. Honestly, it's no different at all. This treats vehicles and people the exact same way. There's an encumbrance table, which I'm not overly fond of encumbrance in a game that is supposed to be so swashbuckling and freewheeling as Star Wars, but I present to you, I think it's mainly to emulate Star Wars in that no one really walks around in a lot of heavy armor. That's a D&D trope. Rarely do we see our characters in any kind of armor in this game. And if you do, it racks up your encumbrance kind of greatly. You can also have the option for cyberware. Again, not something I think is necessary, but it kind of makes sense since we see Luke's hand get cut off. The critical hit table in this, by the way, is brutal. Some of the stuff that can happen when you roll a critical hit include you lose an arm, you lose a limb, you die. You start hemorrhaging strain, which are kind of your willpower points. It can get pretty nasty at the higher levels. Gives you information on the core worlds and the fringe more where you actually live and do your dirty work. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the best Star Wars game I've ever played, and I've played a bunch of them. This is one of the best intuitively run sci-fi games I've ever seen, and I've played a lot of them. I always judge a sci-fi game of, can this play Farscape? And if the answer is yes, then I'm good. This game can do Farscape in a heartbeat. Realign some of the races, scrape some serial numbers off, call them prowlers instead of X-Wings, you've got it. I highly recommend this game, folks. I've had a ball playing it. I almost see it, sorry to let it go for a little while, but I want to run a game again. Jordan's doing a fantastic job. If you haven't given this game a look, or you've sort of dismissed it because of your hatred for kitschy dice, take it from a man who hates kitschy dice. This is a game you will enjoy. For Game Geeks, I'm your host, Kurt Wiegel. Good day and good gaming.